Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we have a mission, maybe one of the most vital ones yet, decoding character.
Yeah, it feels really fundamental.
We're plunging into, well, a lot of research, developmental psychology, education studies, sociological data to bring you, the listener, the most effective research-backed strategies for raising kind, resilient, good humans.
And it's definitely an emotional deep dive. I mean, the stakes for parenting feel so personal, right?
Yeah.
And increasingly so public.
Absolutely.
Every parent, I think, carries that little knot of anxiety. Will my kid be okay?
Yeah.
Will they be kind? Will they, succeed, but also keep their compassion?
Right, that balance.
So we've tried to cut through all the noise, the opinions, the assumptions.
Get to the science.
Exactly, the actionable science. Because just being an informed parent, that's honestly the essential first step towards, constructive character-driven change.
Yeah.
It often goes beyond just gut instinct.
Okay, let's unpack that. We're not just talking about, saying please and thank you on the playground.
No, much deeper.
It's about the fundamental values kids absorb from everywhere, really. And when you look at some of the societal stuff, the need for intentional character building, it becomes really clear. You shared an anecdote earlier, mortifying but probably relatable for some parents, a 5-year-old making just a blatantly racist comment.
Yes. A friend she was floored. Her 5-year-old son, who's white, told her flat out he didn't like their babysitter, who was black, because she had dark skin.
Wow. Where does a 5-year-old even get that?
That's the question, isn't it? And look, it's rarely actual malice at that age. It's absorbed messages, maybe misinterpreted differences, and honestly, a huge knowledge gap that we as adults need to fill.
So it's not intentional cruelty. It's learned or absorbed confusion.
Precisely. And these moments, these raw, unexpected flashes of bias, they're exactly why we need research-backed responses, not just, panicked reactions.
And if we zoom out from the home, the source material suggests the whole social landscape kids are navigating, it's getting rockier.
Volatile is a good word. The public sphere, the figures kids see in power. They're modeling behaviors that can actively undermine the very character traits we want to build.
So it's like they're getting mixed messages.
Big time. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, you see children's values actually shifting based on signals they perceive from powerful figures. Take that January 2019 study analyzing Virginia middle schools. It's pretty stark. Researchers found that after the 2016 election, teasing and bullying rates, they were a staggering 18% higher among students in districts that heavily favored a pro-Trump stance compared to those favoring his opponent.
18% higher. Just based on the political leaning of the district after the election.
Yeah. Now, the study just reports this correlation. It doesn't assign blame to voters or parties, but it suggests a link between the political climate and kids' behavior.
It suggests that maybe public aggression or perceived intolerance, when kids see it modeled by high-profile adults.
It signals something. It seems to signal to young people that these behaviors are, maybe acceptable, or even what powerful people do.
It reminds me of that classic Bandura experiment, the Bobo doll.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like that playing out on a national scale, for anyone who doesn't know it.
Yeah, maybe a quick recap.
Sure. So Bandura had these young kids, like 3 to 6 years old, watch an adult interacting with this inflatable Bobo doll.
Okay.
Some adults just played calmly nearby. Others, they went full-on aggressive, hitting the doll, kicking it, yelling insults at it.
And the kids watched all this.
Watched it carefully. And, critically, the kids who saw the aggressive adult, they were way more likely to attack the doll themselves when they got a chance later, especially if they were feeling frustrated.
So they copied the aggression they saw.
They did. And the source material draws this strong parallel. When young people see leaders or anyone they perceive as having authority engaging in, say, bigoted or aggressive ways, it acts like a kind of dangerous blueprint.
It normalizes it.
Right. It normalizes the aggression, making it easier for them to adopt similar behaviors. That's why understanding the roots of character is so critical.
Okay, let's ground ourselves then. Foundational pillar, kindness. There's this, stubborn idea out there that kindness is weakness.
Oh, yeah. You hear that a lot.
That if you raise your kids to be too nice, too generous, they'll just get walked all over. Or they won't have that, sharp edge needed for success.
The nice guys finish last, true.
Exactly. But the research, it just seems to dismantle that completely.
It really does, systematically. We have some pretty robust long-term evidence showing kindness isn't just, like, a feel-good thing. It's a massive dividend, financially, socially.
Okay, tell me more about that financial dividend.
Yeah. There was this one analysis, 2019, that tracked kids for 30 years, from kindergarten all the way into adulthood.
30 years, that's serious longitudinal data. What did they find?
So after controlling for the important stuff like the family's economic background, the kid's IQ, things like that,
Right, isolating the kindness factor.
they found that the boys who were rated back in kindergarten as being kinder, more generous, more helpful, they earned significantly more money as adults.
Whoa, seriously, more money, not less.
Significantly more. It wasn't a tiny difference. It was a really powerful, measurable link between early prosocial behavior and later financial success.
That feels so counterintuitive to the cultural narrative. We usually think it's, I don't know, raw intelligence or maybe aggression that drives income.
I know, but the research suggests it's about things like social capital, emotional intelligence, qualities that are actually highly valued now, especially in collaborative work environments.
Makes sense. Kind people are probably better team players.
Better collaborators, better negotiators, because they can actually see the other person's perspective. They build trust, loyalty, things essential for leadership. Adam Grant's work really hits this home, too.
Oh, yeah, his research on givers and takers.
Exactly. He notes that generosity and helpfulness often distinguish the really successful people, the true standouts, from those who are just sort of average performers.
So kindness correlates with success. And the research says it makes you happier, too. It's like a double win.
It absolutely is. Studies show a direct link, even on a neurochemical level, between being generous and feeling happy.
Like the helper's high?
Kind of. Even toddlers. There was this one experiment where they gave toddlers crackers. Some got to keep them, some got to give them away to a puppet.
Okay.
The toddlers who gave away their crackers showed a bigger spike in happiness than the ones who just received crackers themselves.
Yeah.
Giving felt better than getting, even for them.
Wow.
Plus, other studies show kids rated by their peers as being more helpful. They also tend to get better grades, and that holds up even when you account for intelligence.
Okay, so if kindness is so beneficial, so rewarding, why are young kids often so, well, profoundly self-centered? Almost comically so sometimes.
Yes, the anecdotes are classic, aren't they?
Like the 7-year-old demanding chicken nuggets at a fancy Mother's Day dinner.
Or the 3-year-old, mid-meltdown, crying out, "But it's not all about me!" Like it's a shocking revelation.
Right. So what's going on there?
We really have to shift our frame. What looks like selfishness or even cruelty in a young child. It's rarely coming from a place of malice. It's developmental. 2 huge roadblocks.
Okay, what are they?
First, the brain. Specifically, the lack of a fully developed frontal lobe.
Ah, the brain's CEO, the part that handles planning and control.
Exactly. That frontal lobe is responsible for all those crucial executive functions. Self-control, thinking through consequences, planning ahead, logic.
Stuff toddlers aren't famous for.
Not at all. Toddlers and preschoolers, they literally lack the physical brain wiring for advanced self-regulation, especially when they're stressed or upset. That's why you see impulsive actions, grabbing, hitting, focusing only on their immediate want.
That's such a crucial reminder for parents in the middle of a meltdown. They can't regulate like we can.
They truly can't. And the second big factor is the lack of what psychologists call theory of mind, or TOM.
Theory of mind, that's understanding other people have different thoughts and feelings.
Precisely. It's the cognitive ability to recognize that others have thoughts, feelings, beliefs, perspective that are separate and different from your own.
So young kids just assume everyone sees the world exactly as they do.
Pretty much. They live in this, egocentric bubble. They think what they know, what they feel, what they see. That's what everyone knows, feels, and sees.
Okay. That explains that story about the 7-year-old Ella planning a funeral speech for a relative she barely knew.
Yes. And the speech was entirely about her sadness, her inconvenience about the funeral travel.
And then she realized she couldn't remember the dead person's name.
Right. It wasn't that she didn't care. Not really. It's just profound egocentricity. Theory of mind, it generally doesn't start solidifying until around age 4 or 5. And even then, it takes years to fully develop.
So our job as parents is kind of helping build that wiring for empathy.
Exactly. Which leads us right into strategy 1. Cultivating empathy through talk. Developing their emotional literacy.
Okay. Emotion talk. How do we actually do that day to day? Is it just like naming feelings? You seem sad.
It's more than just naming, though. That's part of it. It's constant interjection, discussion, exploration. There was a key study. It found that toddlers, whose moms talked a lot about feelings, the child's feelings, the mom's own feelings, even the feelings of characters in storybooks, those kids were significantly more likely to help others and share things later on.
So talking about feelings builds the capacity for empathy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It gives them the vocabulary, the definitions, the context for that complex inner world, both their own and others.
So instead of just snapping, stop yelling, maybe try naming my own feeling. Like, wow, I'm feeling really stressed right now because the noise is a lot for me.
Or asking them, are you feeling angry because your tower broke?
Yeah.
What does that anger feel like inside your body? You're helping them label it.
And using books seems like a great tool, too.
Huge. Pause the story. Ask, why do you think the wolf feels sad right now? Do you think maybe the little pig hurt his feelings when he said that? You're constantly prompting them to consider the internal state of others.
Building that theory of mind muscle.
Exactly. And this ties directly into what research shows is the most effective form of discipline. Something called induction.
Induction. Okay, that sounds technical. What is it?
It's actually pretty simple in practice. It's all about connecting the child's action directly to the effect it had on someone else, on the victim.
Focusing on the consequences for the other person.
Yes. Induction works because it bypasses just like arbitrary punishment and forces the child to engage that developing theory of mind, to look outward.
So give me an example. Instead of a power move like, don't hit, go to your room, which is all about my authority.
Right. Instead, you use induction. Whoa, hitting isn't okay. Look at your brother's face. It really hurts him, see? I suspect that's why he's crying and holding his arm right now. How do you think he feels inside?
You're making them practice perspective taking right in the moment.
You are. And the research here is really important because it pushes back against that pushover parent myth. Some people think induction is too soft.
Right, like it doesn't teach them a lesson.
But the data says the opposite. Research consistently confirms that parents who use discipline focused on the victim's feelings induction. They raise kids who are reliably more generous, more empathetic than parents who rely on strict, power-assertive methods like punishments, timeouts, spankings.
Why? What's the mechanism?
Because induction teaches them why their action matters. It promotes genuine moral understanding, internalizing the value, not just obedience, because they're scared of getting caught or punished.
Okay, but this whole process, the emotion talk, the induction, it seems like it needs something else first, especially when a kid is having a total meltdown. The kind where chairs might be flying.
Yes. The spectacular meltdown. That requires validation.
Validation, acknowledging the feeling.
Acknowledging the intensity of the feeling critically, without condoning the bad behavior that might come with it.
So even if the reason seems utterly ridiculous to me, like the chair throwing incident because I opened the car door they wanted to open.
Yes. Even then, you get down on their level, you make eye contact, and you say something like, oh man, you must be so incredibly frustrated that I opened that door. That is really annoying when you wanted to do it yourself so badly.
You name the feeling, you validate the intensity, even if the trigger is minor.
Exactly. You have to meet them where they are emotionally. Validation is the absolute critical first step. It calms their system down.
It's like the bridge to helping them regulate.
It absolutely is. The research is crystal clear on this. When parents are responsive and sensitive to their kids' distress, validating those big emotions, those children develop much better self-regulation skills over time.
And that connects back to kindness.
Directly. Kids who learn to manage their own big feelings become significantly more empathetic and responsive when they see others who are upset.
Because they understand distress from the inside out.
Precisely. They become those kids in the lab studies who, a year later, spontaneously comfort a researcher who just pretends to hurt herself. They recognize and respond to distress because they've learned to handle their own.
So the sequence is, validate the feeling first to calm the storm. Then, once they're regulated, address the behavior. I know you were super frustrated, but we never throw chairs.
That's the magic sequence. That separation makes the limit setting, the discipline actually sink in. You connect before you correct.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From kindness to grit, resilience, the stuff kids need to, well, strive and succeed. We need to talk about strategy, too, which tackles what the source material calls the genius trap.
Yes. This cultural obsession we have with the natural, the prodigy, the person who seems to succeed without even trying.
Right. We love that story, but it's a trap.
It's a massive trap, and it's actively harmful. There was this fascinating study detailed in the source material. Participants listened to the exact same musical performance, or they read the exact same business proposal.
There was a catch.
Right. Half were told the musician or the entrepreneur was a natural, just effortlessly brilliant. The other half were told they were a striver, someone who worked incredibly hard, practiced relentlessly, overcame obstacles.
Okay, same performance, different backstory. What happened?
People consistently rated the exact same performance or proposal as superior, more impressive, when they thought the person was a natural.
Wow, so we're actually biased against effort. We prefer the myth of innate talent.
We seem hardwired for it, and it's such a disservice to our kids because parents often perpetuate this
How so?
by focusing on precociousness.
Yep.
Look, my kid can read at age 3, rather than focusing on the effort, the practice, the struggle it took to get there.
And that focus on early achievement is counterproductive.
Fundamentally, because long-term success, the kind that really matters, it's not shaped by whether you're reading at 3. It's shaped by motivation, by resilience, by how you handle challenges.
Effort matters more than apparent genius.
Way more. In fact, motivation might actually be part of intelligence itself. How hard you're willing to try, how much effort you invest. That directly shapes how capable, how smart you ultimately become.
Okay, this leads us perfectly into Angela Duckworth's work on grit.
Yes, a really crucial concept for this discussion.
How does she define grit? It's more than just perseverance, right?
Right. Grit is passion combined with perseverance. It's not just about sticking with something. It's about sticking with something you care about, something that drives you.
And she breaks it down.
Yeah, into 4 key components that kind of feed each other. First is interest. You got to have a sustained curiosity.
Okay.
Second is practice. Not just any practice, but deliberate, focused work to improve.
Okay. Interest. Practice.
Third is purpose, connecting what you're doing to something bigger than yourself, something meaningful. And fourth is hope. Not just wishful thinking, but the actual belief that your efforts can make a difference, that you can improve.
Interest, practice, purpose, hope. And this grit score she developed, it actually predicts success.
Amazingly well. In some really demanding situations, like it predicted who would make it through the U.S. Army's grueling Special Operations Selection Course and who would succeed in the final rounds of the National Spelling Bee. Better than IQ sometimes.
Wow. So if that's the formula for grit, how do parents help cultivate it? That brings us to strategy 2, the hard thing rule.
The hard thing rule, yeah, this is Duckworth's practical application for her own kids.
How does it work?
Pretty simple, actually. Everyone in the family, including the parents, has to choose one hard thing. Something that's challenging, but also potentially fun or interesting. Something that requires deliberate practice.
Okay, like learning an instrument or a sport or coding.
Could be anything. And the rule is you have to commit to it for a set period, like for the whole season or the entire school year. You can quit after that period, but not before.
So it teaches commitment and follow through.
Yes. But here's the crucial part, the part parents often mess up. The child has to choose the activity themselves.
It can't be imposed by the parent.
Absolutely not. If the parent forces it, you will play piano. It just becomes an obligation. The passion, the intrinsic interest isn't there. And without that interest, you won't get the perseverance. The choice is key for building that internal drive.
That makes total sense. Choice fuels the interest, which fuels the perseverance. Okay, this flows right into strategy 3, the praise paradox, and the whole fixed versus growth mindset idea.
Yes. This is probably one of the most impactful and maybe most commonly misunderstood areas of character building in parenting.
So remind us quickly, fixed versus growth mindset.
Sure. A fixed mindset is the belief that your abilities or your intelligence, your talent are basically set in stone, innate. You're either smart or you're not, good at math or you're not.
And a growth mindset.
That's the belief that abilities can be developed, that they're shaped by effort, by learning, by perseverance, by good strategies. You can become smarter. You can get better at math through hard work.
And Carol Dweck's research showed how praising kids impacts their mindset, often negatively.
Devastatingly so. Her classic study with 5th graders really laid it bare. It showed the damaging effect of praising kids for their ability.
Okay, walk me through that. What happens when you tell a kid, wow, you solved that puzzle, you must be so smart?
So when the kids were praised for being smart, that's praising innate ability, they internalized that as a fixed identity. I am the smart kid. And they felt this immense pressure to protect that label.
Okay, so how did that play out?
When they were later given a choice between an easy puzzle and a more challenging one, the smart kids overwhelmingly chose the easy one. They became risk-averse. They didn't want to do anything that might challenge their smart status.
They didn't want to risk failing and proving they weren't actually smart.
Exactly. And even worse, when they did encounter failure on a subsequent difficult task, the kids praised for being smart. They performed worse, they gave up sooner.
Wow.
And, this is critical, they were significantly more likely to lie about their scores afterwards, to cheat or misrepresent how they did, all to protect that fragile, smart identity.
So praising kids for being smart can actually teach them to be dishonest and maybe even lazy when things get tough.
It sounds harsh, but yes. They learn that effort is a sign of weakness. If you were really smart, you wouldn't need to try so hard. And that failure means you fundamentally aren't smart. So they avoid effort and they dread failure.
So what's the alternative? How should we praise them?
The research is incredibly clear. Shift your language entirely. Focus on praising the process, the actions, the effort, the strategies they used, not the person or the innate trait.
So instead of, "You're such a great artist," say, "Wow, you did a fantastic job on that drawing. I really like how you kept working on the shading until you got it right." Or, "I noticed you tried a few different ways to solve that math problem. That persistence paid off."
You're linking the positive outcome directly to their behavior, their effort.
Exactly. It helps them internalize that effort as the lever they can pull. That challenges or opportunities to learn and get stronger. It gives them a sense of control.
So if they fail later, the growth mindset kid thinks, okay, that didn't work. I need a different strategy, or I need to practice more. The fixed mindset kid thinks, see, I'm just not good at this. I'm a failure.
It's a fundamental difference in how they approach challenges. And we need to be praising the process consistently.
Constantly praise the revision, praise the struggle, praise the strategy, praise the learning, praise the persistence, never the fixed identity, never the innate talent.
Okay. Now, a major roadblock to effort and persistence for kids and adults. Strategy 4, taming the procrastination monster.
Procrastination, the bane of homework everywhere.
We usually think of it as just bad time management, right? But the source material argues it's deeper than that.
Much deeper. The research increasingly shows that procrastination isn't primarily a time management problem. It's an emotion regulation problem.
Emotion regulation, how so?
Kids, just like us, put off tasks that feel hard or unpleasant because those tasks trigger negative emotions. Things like boredom, anxiety about failing, frustration that it's too difficult, maybe resentment that they have to do it at all.
Okay, so they feel bad thinking about the task.
Exactly. And procrastination is essentially a way to cope with those bad feelings in the short term. They turn to an activity that provides immediate relief or distraction, something that makes them feel better right now.
Like scrolling TikTok or watching cat videos, or if they're younger, maybe demanding a snack or wanting to play instead.
Precisely. It's an often subconscious attempt to avoid the negative feeling associated with the task by doing something pleasurable instead. It's self-soothing, even if it's ultimately counterproductive.
Is there research backing that emotion link?
Yes. One study deliberately induced feelings in subjects. Some were made to feel sad, others happy. Then they were given a choice between studying or doing something fun, like playing games.
Yeah.
The participants who were feeling sad were significantly more likely to procrastinate, to choose the games over studying, compared to those who felt happy. When our mood is low, our priority shifts from the long-term goal, finishing the task, to the short-term goal, feeling better now.
Okay, so if it's about managing negative emotions, how do parents help kids overcome procrastination? It's not just about making a schedule then.
Schedules can help, but you have to address the emotion first, acknowledge it. Wow, I can see you're feeling really stressed about starting this big history project. It looks pretty overwhelming, huh?
Validate the feeling again.
Always. Then help them break it down. The sheer size of a task is often what triggers the anxiety. So break it into tiny, manageable first steps. The goal isn't write the whole essay. The goal is open the document and write one sentence, or find one source.
Make the barrier to starting incredibly low.
Exactly. And you could also help them time travel. Encourage them to imagine how good, how relieved they'll feel after the task is done. Connecting with that future positive feeling can sometimes motivate them to push through the current discomfort.
Okay, final strategy in this section. Strategy 5, using rewards sparingly. Sticker charts, allowances for chores, these are pretty common, but also controversial.
Hugely debated. Rewards can seem effective in the short term for getting compliance, but there's a lot of research suggesting they can be detrimental in the long run, especially for building intrinsic motivation.
Why is that? What's the main critique?
It goes back decades, really, starting with Edward Dici's classic Soma puzzle study back in 1971.
The puzzle study, right. Remind me how that worked.
Dici gave college students these really interesting, fun spatial puzzles called Soma cubes to play with. Some students were paid for each puzzle they solved. an extrinsic reward. Others were just asked to work on them, no payment involved.
Okay, so one group got paid, one didn't.
Right. Then, during a break period where they could do whatever they wanted, read magazines, work on more puzzles, just relax, the researchers secretly watched what they did.
And what happened?
The students who had previously been paid to do the puzzles spent significantly less free time choosing to play with the puzzles compared to the students who had never been paid.
Getting paid actually made them less interested in the puzzles afterwards.
Exactly. The reward seemed to undermine their intrinsic motivation. It shifted their perception of the activity. It wasn't, I do this because it's fun and engaging anymore. It became, I do this because I get paid for it. The reward felt controlling.
It changed the why.
Precisely. When a reward feels like it's controlling your behavior, it tends to kill the enjoyment you might have naturally felt for the activity itself. The child stops associating chores, say, with contributing to the family or developing competence, and starts associating them purely with getting the reward. Motivation becomes external, not internal.
But the source material also mentioned the drop wasn't always statistically huge.
Right. The size of the effect is debated, but the consistent finding is about that perception of control. If the reward feels like manipulation, it backfires on intrinsic drive. Sometimes rewards can be useful for kickstarting a behavior the child finds truly aversive, but they should be phased out.
So if sticker charts for cleaning their room might feel controlling and kill internal motivation, what's the better approach for encouraging responsibility?
The alternative strategies almost always work better long-term for building character. Focus on encouragement, provide choices, and crucially, explain the reason behind the task, connected to values.
So less bribery, more reasoning and autonomy.
Exactly. You might say, hey, I know putting laundry away isn't the most fun thing, but it really helps our family keep the house tidy so we have clear space to play and relax. It's about us all pitching in.
Giving the why.
Giving the why.
Yeah.
And then offering choices whenever possible. Would you prefer to clear the dinner table tonight or help load the dishwasher? Giving them that sense of autonomy is huge for fostering internal motivation. The goal isn't just getting them to obey right now, it's helping them decide internally over time that they want to be responsible contributors.
Let's pivot now to maybe one of the trickiest and frankly most intimidating areas for parents today, addressing bias, starting with strategy 1, which tackles the colorblind myth.
Ah, yes. This very common, usually well-intentioned idea.
That if you just don't talk about race, if you pretend not to see differences, your child won't notice them either and therefore won't become prejudiced.
Right. We don't see color in our house. But the research shows this approach is, well, it's not just ineffective. It actively backfires.
Backfires.
It's a profound failure of intentional parenting, honestly. Because kids do notice differences. They notice skin color, hair texture, features, often before they're even 3 years old.
They're natural pattern seekers.
Exactly. And they also notice societal patterns. They see who lives where, who seems to have more money or status, who holds positions of power, who they see represented in books and media.
Okay.
If parents create a vacuum by refusing to talk about race, by pretending these differences don't exist or don't matter, kids don't just ignore it. They try to make sense of those patterns themselves.
And they invent their own explanations.
They invent their own reasons. And because they lack historical context and understanding of systemic issues, those invented reasons almost invariably end up reflecting and reinforcing the biases already present in society. They might conclude, oh, maybe people with darker skin aren't as smart, or maybe that group isn't supposed to live in this neighborhood. They absorb and rationalize the status quo if we don't offer a counter-narrative.
So silence allows prejudice to fill the void. It's like that idea of cultural racism being smog in the air.
That's Beverly Daniel Tatum's powerful metaphor. We're all breathing it in constantly. If we don't actively teach our kids how to see it, name it, and resist it, they just passively absorb it.
And the research shows that particularly white parents really struggle with having these explicit conversations.
Yes, there's significant resistance, often rooted in discomfort or fear of saying the wrong thing. One study was really telling. Researchers asked white parents of 5 to 7-year-olds to talk explicitly about race with their kids using provided storybooks.
Okay, they were given the tools and asked to do it.
And only 10% actually complied. 90% found ways to avoid the topic, even when directly prompted. The discomfort is real, but that avoidance causes harm.
There was also that anecdote about the iPad experiment that really highlighted how kids pick up on unspoken biases.
Oh yeah, that one's striking. A white 5-year-old girl was doing a Playmate selection task on an iPad. When asked who she wanted to play with, she confidently chose a diverse group of kids. Looked great.
Okay, seemed inclusive.
But then the researcher asked a slightly different question. Which kids would your mommy and daddy want you to play with?
Ah.
And the girl hesitated, then repeatedly chose only the white children. Her parent, watching through a one-way mirror, was apparently horrified. They thought they'd been successfully colorblind, teaching no bias.
But the child had clearly picked up on something.
Exactly. Unconscious signals. Maybe who they socialize with, the books on the shelf, subtle reactions to people in public. Kids are incredibly perceptive anthropologists of their own families. Silence doesn't mean neutrality. It often means confirming the societal default.
So the core strategy has to be explicit anti-racism, talking directly about race, differences, history.
You absolutely have to talk about race and racism directly, factually, and age-appropriately. Another study found something really interesting. They taught white elementary-aged kids biographies of famous Black historical figures, like Jackie Robinson or Rosa Parks.
Okay.
Half the kids heard versions that included details about the racism and discrimination these figures faced. The other half heard versions that praised their achievements but omitted the context of battling prejudice.
Same figures, different framing around racism.
Right. And the kids who learned about the struggle against discrimination showed significantly more positive attitudes toward Black people afterward. The kids who heard the sanitized, racism-free versions showed no change in their racial attitudes.
So you have to name the injustice for them to understand the importance of fairness and equality. Wow.
It seems so. You have to provide the context for the differences they already observe.
Okay, let's shift from race to strategy 2, the language of sexism and gender. Here again, the source material suggests subtle things like language, drive bias, making gender psychologically salient.
Exactly. It's about how much we emphasize gender as an organizing principle of the world. Just think about how often kids hear, okay, boys line up here, girls line up there, or good morning, boys and girls.
Or, that's a boy's toy. She looks so pretty in that dress. Big boys don't cry.
All the time. This constant labeling, this dividing the world along gender lines, tells children, implicitly but powerfully, that gender is perhaps the most important social category they belong to. It makes it hyper-visible, hyper-important.
And this leads to stereotypes forming really early.
Incredibly early. That landmark study on kids' perceptions of intelligence was fascinating. They asked 5-year-olds about who is really, really smart.
And at 5,
At 5, both boys and girls tended to associate brilliance with their own gender. Girls are smart. Boys are smart.
okay, a bit of egocentrism maybe, but fairly equal.
But then they asked slightly older kids, around age 6.5. And by that age, something had shifted. Many children, and importantly, a significant number of the girls, had started associating being really, really smart, primarily with men.
Just a year and a half later, by first grade.
By first grade, they're already absorbing and internalizing societal stereotypes that link high-level intellectual talent more with males than females. That quickly.
And the consequences of letting these stereotypes take root are serious for both boys and girls.
They are devastating, frankly. For boys, when they deeply internalize those rigid toughness or stoicism stereotypes, be a man, don't show weakness, it's linked to lower interest in school because academics might seem unmanly. It's linked to lower self-esteem, higher rates of depression because they feel they can't express vulnerability or ask for help.
And for girls.
For girls, internalizing the stereotype that their primary value lies in their appearance or being nice and accommodating, it's linked to lower grades, higher rates of depression, and eating disorders. And these stereotypes also set the stage for problematic social dynamics later, like sexual harassment or accepting inequality. Sometimes male stereotypes in adolescence shift towards ideals of dominance and sexual callousness.
So what's the counter strategy here? We can't just pretend gender doesn't exist.
No, of course not. But we can stop making it the absolute primary default way we categorize and address children. The main strategy is ease way up on the constant gender labeling.
Use more neutral terms.
Yes, instead of always boys and girls, try kids, students, people, readers, scientists, artists, friends. Use group names that aren't based on gender.
And encourage mix.
Actively encourage cross-gender friendships and activities. Challenge stereotypes when you hear them. Why can't boys play with dolls? Why can't girls be loud and adventurous? Question the assumptions. The goal isn't to erase gender, but to make it feel less like a rigid box, less like a set of constraints.
Make it one aspect of identity, not the defining one.
Exactly. Research shows that when kids understand gender stereotypes are just like social conventions, things people made up, they are much more flexible in their thinking and behavior than when they believe those stereotypes are natural, inevitable, or morally right.
Okay, let's move into the nitty-gritty of daily life. Managing behavior, navigating conflicts, dealing with screens. Starting with strategy 1, authoritative discipline. This is presented as the optimal style.
Yes, the research is remarkably consistent on this over decades. Children raised with authoritative parenting tend to have the best outcomes. More competent, responsible, self-reliant, and happy.
So what defines authoritative parenting? We need to be clear how it differs from authoritarian. They sound similar.
They do sound similar, but they're very different. Authoritative parents are characterized by two key dimensions. They are high in warmth and responsiveness. They're loving, supportive, listen to their kids. And they are high in what's called demandingness. They set clear expectations, have firm rules and limits, and hold kids accountable.
So, warm and firm, high expectations, but also high support.
Exactly. And crucially, authoritative parents encourage discussion, negotiation, give reasons for rules. We have bedtime so our bodies can rest and grow strong, and value the child's perspective, even while upholding the boundary.
Okay, so how does that contrast with authoritarian parenting?
Authoritarian parents are also high on demandingness. Strict rules, expect obedience, but they are low on warmth and responsiveness. It's more about hierarchy, power, control. Punishment is common, discussion is discouraged.
The classic because I said so
Very.
parent.
That's the hallmark phrase, isn't it? Research, including studies looking at leadership styles, shows this approach often backfires. Kids might become either overly compliant and passive, lacking initiative, or they might become resentful and aggressive, basically modeling the coercive power they see the parent using.
So the warmth and the reasoning make a huge difference.
A massive difference. And it often comes down to the type of control being used.
Okay. Behavioral versus psychological control.
Exactly. Authoritative parents use behavioral control. They set limits on behavior, use consequences related to the action, like induction, which we talked about, focus on the act being unacceptable. But they are careful to avoid psychological control.
And psychological control is what?
That's trying to control the child by manipulating their thoughts and feelings. Things like withdrawing love or affection when the child displeases them, using guilt trips. Look how sad you make mommy when you don't listen. Shaming them, making them feel worthless.
That feels damaging.
It is incredibly damaging. Psychological control is consistently linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, apathy, poor self-worth, and even aggression in children. When you use guilt or shame or the threat of withdrawing love, you're basically teaching the child that your love is conditional on their perfect performance.
Which undermines their sense of security.
Completely. It prevents that secure attachment they need to feel safe exploring the world and developing a strong sense of self. Authoritative parents make it clear, I love you unconditionally, and your behavior needs to change.
Okay, let's tackle strategy 2. Sibling conflict and mediation. The endless fighting. Parents often get told to just stay out of it, let them work it out. Is that right?
Generally, no. Ignoring it completely isn't the best approach, according to the research, because what usually happens then,
The bigger or stronger kid wins.
almost always, the stronger or more verbally aggressive child learns that coercion works, and the weaker child learns to be victimized or withdraw. So simply staying out of it can actually reinforce negative patterns.
But we also shouldn't always jump in and play referee.
Right. That's not ideal either. But first, it helps to dispel that old Freudian myth that all sibling conflict is just about intense jealousy over parental love.
It's not always deep-seated rivalry.
Sometimes it is, sure. But often, especially with younger kids, it's much simpler. It's about clashing needs. I want that toy.
Yeah.
Simple curiosity. What happens if I push this button on his game? Or, going back to part 1 again, that still developing frontal lobe, lack of impulse control.
Right, like those shocking stories. The toddler who staple gunned his brother's hand, or the one who bit an electrical wire.
Exactly. It wasn't malicious intent. It was terrible planning and zero impulse control. They just don't foresee consequences yet.
So understanding the reason for the conflict matters. And the parent's role shouldn't be judge and jury.
No. The goal isn't to arbitrate, to figure out who's right, assign blame, and dole out punishment. The more effective role, according to researchers like Lori Kramer, is to mediate.
Mediate, like a conflict resolution professional, but for juice boxes and Lego disputes.
Pretty much. Krainer's research suggests a kind of four-step process for mediation that actually builds character skills.
Okay, walk us through the steps. What does effective mediation look like?
First, you help the kids actually hear each other. Get them to state their side of the story one at a time without interruption. Just listen.
Step 1, listen to understand.
Step 2, acknowledge their feelings. Validate what each child is experiencing. Okay, I hear you, Sam.
Yeah.
You're feeling really angry because Mia took the red crayon you were using. And Mia, I hear you. You're feeling frustrated because you needed red for your picture.
Step 2, validate the emotions on both sides.
Step 3, help them understand the other's perspective. This is where induction and empathy practice come in again. Sam, how do you think Mia felt when you snatched the crayon back? Mia, can you see why Sam might be upset?
Step 3, build perspective taking.
And finally, step 4, arguably the most important. Help them brainstorm their own solutions. Don't just impose one. Ask them, okay, we have one red crayon and 2 kids who want it right now. What are some ideas for how we could solve this problem fairly?
Let them come up with solutions.
Yes. Maybe they decide to take turns. Maybe they find another red crayon. Maybe one uses orange instead. The specific solution matters less than the fact that they generated it and agreed to it. That's where they learn negotiation, compromise, problem-solving skills that last a lifetime. It takes more time than just yelling, but the payoff is huge.
All right, moving on to strategy 3, screen time and parental modeling. This causes so much anxiety for parents. Are screens ruining our kids?
The level of anxiety is definitely sky high. But it helps to have a little historical perspective here.
Okay.
Society tends to panic with every major new medium that comes along. Socrates famously worried that the invention of writing would destroy people's memory.
Okay, fair point.
In the 1740s, there was a huge moral panic about young people reading novels. They thought it would corrupt their minds and lead to laziness. Today, it's the glowing rectangle.
So maybe the panic is a bit overblown. What does the research actually say about the impact of screens?
Well, one problem is that a lot of research just lumps all screen time together. An hour of coding practice is treated the same as an hour scrolling through random YouTube shorts. The content and the context matter hugely.
Right, quality over quantity.
Exactly. And when studies try to find an average effect of screen time on overall well-being, the results are often surprisingly small. One analysis I found particularly grounding, put it this way.
Yeah.
The average negative effect size of screen time on adolescent well-being was statistically about the same size as the negative effect associated with eating potatoes.
Eating potatoes. Seriously.
Or wearing glasses. The point is, for the average kid, the impact of screens, when averaged out, might be far less detrimental than the headlines suggest. It doesn't mean there aren't risks, especially with excessive use or problematic content, but the overall panic might be disproportionate.
Okay, so if we dial back the panic, what's the recommended approach? The source material says, don't just monitor, mentor.
Yes. Monitoring focuses on limits, restrictions, tracking time. That can be part of it, but it often just breeds resentment and sneakiness. Mentorship is about engagement.
Engaging with the content with them.
Yes, talking about what they're seeing, what they're playing, what they're learning, helping them navigate the digital world thoughtfully. There was that study on the kids' show, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
Oh yeah, the social emotional learning show.
Right. It found that kids who watched the show did develop higher levels of empathy and social problem-solving skills, but only if their parents regularly talked with them about the show's messages and lessons afterwards.
So passive viewing wasn't enough. The parental engagement was key.
It transformed it from just entertainment into an active learning experience. Use screens with your kids when you can. Play the game with them, watch the show, ask questions, be their media mentor.
But there's a big hypocrisy issue here, isn't there, with parents' own screen use?
Oh, it's the massive elephant in the digital room.
The stats are pretty damning. Parents now average something like 9.5 hours a day interacting with screens themselves.
9.5 hours.
Yet in surveys, 78% of those same parents believe they're setting a good example for their kids regarding technology use.
Wow. That's a major disconnect. Kids must see that.
They absolutely see
yeah.
it, and they call us out on it. There was that telling anecdote about the middle schoolers who, for a project, developed an app concept called Stop Texting, Enjoy Life.
Oh no. What did it do?
The idea was the app would use voice recognition. If the child said, "Mom, stop texting," or "Dad, get off your phone," it would trigger the app to shut down the parent's phone for a set period.
Ouch. Brutal feedback from the focus group. Brutal, but honest. Kids feel ignored when we're constantly drawn to our devices. We have to model the behavior we want to see. Put the phone away during meals, during conversations. If we absolutely must check something, maybe narrate it. Sorry, sweetie, I just need 1 minute to check the map for directions, then I'll be right back with you.
Increases our own mindfulness, too.
Exactly. It acknowledges the interruption and validates their feeling that the device is pulling our attention away. We need to practice what we preach.
Okay, final strategy. Strategy 4, talking about sexuality, consent, and dealing with pornography. What are the big gaps parents need to address here?
The gaps are, frankly, enormous. Surveys show shocking numbers, like 3 out of 4 young women reported receiving basically no information about sex or birth control from their parents before they turned 18.
3 out of 4, that's huge. They're relying on school, friends, the internet.
Often, yes. And school sex ed, as we know, is often too little, too late, focused only on biology, or sometimes even factually inaccurate, depending on the district. Parents have to step up.
And the conversation needs to be broader than just the mechanics of sex.
Much broader. We need to talk about sexuality, which includes anatomy, yes, but also healthy relationships, gender roles and stereotypes, desire, intimacy, sexual orientation, and critically, consent, not just the plumbing.
And the language we use matters from the start.
Hugely important. The research is very firm. Use the correct anatomical names for body parts: penis, vulva, vagina, testicles, from a very early age. Matter-of-factly, just like you name elbows and knees.
Why is that so important?
2 main reasons. First, studies show that children who know the correct terms are actually less likely to be targeted for sexual abuse, possibly because abusers rely on shame and secrecy, often associated with euphemisms. Second, if abuse does occur, children who know the correct terms are significantly more effective and credible when they report it, compared to children who only use vague or cutesy names. Clear language is literally a safety tool.
Okay. And the cornerstone of all this is teaching body autonomy and consent.
Absolutely paramount. And this needs to start way before puberty. From toddlerhood, you teach boundaries by consistently reinforcing that the child is in charge of their own body. Their body belongs to them.
How does that look in practice with little kids?
It means asking for consent, for physical contact, even seemingly minor things. Can I give you a hug? Is it okay if I help you wash your hair? Do you want me to lift up your shirt to look at that scrape? Even for medical checks with a doctor.
Modeling asking for permission for touch.
Yes, and respecting their no whenever possible and safe. It also means never, ever forcing a child to show physical affection they don't want to give, like making them hug a relative goodbye or as an apology. That sends a deeply confusing and harmful message that their bodily autonomy doesn't matter, that adults can override their boundaries.
Okay, that's crucial. Now, what about the inevitable curiosity that leads kids, often tweens or teens, to encounter pornography? That causes huge anxiety for parents.
Understandably so. But panic isn't helpful. First, recognize that curiosity about sex and bodies is normal and age-appropriate. Stumbling across porn, especially online, is increasingly common.
So how should parents frame it when it comes up, or if they discover their child has been looking?
Calmly and factually. The key is framing. You need to help them understand that pornography is generally fantasy, it's entertainment, often designed for adult males, and it is absolutely not an instruction manual for real-life intimacy or relationships.
So separating fantasy from reality.
Critically. Explain that the bodies often look unrealistic due to surgery, specific casting, etc. The actions are scripted and performed for the camera, and it often lacks any genuine emotional connection or focus on mutual pleasure and respect. Talk about how it often portrays unrealistic expectations or even harmful attitudes about sex and consent.
So open discussion to counteract potential negative messages.
Exactly. Shaming them or forbidding it often just drives the curiosity underground. Open, non-judgmental conversation helps them process what they're seeing, develops their critical thinking skills about media, and reinforces healthy attitudes about sex, bodies, and relationships. It's about inoculation through information. #outro.
Wow, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today. Just so much practical, research-backed insight. Before we wrap up, can we quickly recap those main pillars, the big takeaways for intentional character building?
Absolutely. Let's try to distill it. Pillar 1 was really about the power of effort over innate talent. Shifting our praise to focus on process, strategy, persistence, cultivating that growth mindset.
Right. Praise the work, not the smartness. Pillar 2.
Pillar 2 was the core of effective discipline. Emotional validation first, followed by induction connecting behavior to its impact on others, all within that warm and firm, authoritative parenting framework.
Avoid psychological control.
Connect before you correct. Okay. Pillar 3. Pillar 3 was about tackling bias head-on. Moving past the failed colorblind myth by talking explicitly about race and racism, and teaching concrete rules of consent and body autonomy from a very early age, using correct language.
Be direct, be factual, be protective. And finally, Pillar 4.
Pillar 4 involved shifting our approach to modern challenges like media, moving from fearful monitoring of screens to active mentorship, engaging with content alongside our kids, and modeling the digital habits we want them to adopt.
Mentor, don't just monitor, and model it yourself.
Okay.
That's a powerful framework.
It is. But it's also important to acknowledge the reality, right? Knowing all this science is one thing.
And actually doing it in the heat of the moment is another.
Exactly. When your kid is having that epic meltdown in the grocery store aisle, your own limbic system, that reactive emotional part of your brain, is going to scream at you to just shut it down. It takes conscious effort to override that and access your prefrontal cortex, your logic center, to choose validation or induction instead.
Change is hard. It takes practice, patience with ourselves.
So much practice. We won't get it right every time. But those moments when you do see it pay off, they are genuinely profound.
Like that story from the source material, the boy who had really struggled with being self-centered.
Oh yeah, that one gives me chills. He was older, maybe 8 or 9, known for being kind of oblivious to others. And one cold day, he's walking down the driveway, heading out.
And his little sister is struggling behind him.
Yeah, she's maybe 5, trying to manage her bike and her big puffy backpack, just having a terrible time. And the boy gets halfway down the driveway, stops, turns around, and goes back. Without a word, he takes his little sister's backpack, slings it over his other shoulder along with his own, and then helps her steady the bike and walk it down the rest of the way.
Wow, just unprompted kindness, empathy in action.
Exactly, that single moment, that glimpse of character, of perspective taking, of responsibility actually sinking in. That's the reward. That's the sign that all those hard conversations, all that intentional effort you're putting in, it has making a difference.
We don't need to be perfect parents. The science seems clear on that too. Good enough parenting is often, well, good enough.
Perfection is impossible and probably not even desirable. But we do need to be intentional parents.
Intentional, choosing our responses based on these principles as best we can.
Right. So maybe that's the final thought we leave you, the listener, with today. Something to mull over, maybe apply this week.
Okay. What's the provocative thought?
Knowing all this, the power of effort praise, the importance of validation, the need for explicit talk about bias and consent, the value of mentorship, what's one small intentional change you can commit to practicing this week?
Just one small thing.
Maybe it's catching yourself before you say you're so smart and praising effort instead. Maybe it's trying that 4-step mediation the next time the kids fight. Maybe it's just taking one deep breath to validate a feeling before reacting to a tantrum. Or putting your own phone down during dinner. What's your first step?
Because that first conscious decision, that first intentional act, that's where the journey of raising good humans really takes shape.
Exactly. The fact that you listened this long, that you're engaging with this, that's already evidence you're on the right path.